Hi, I'm James Christopher, and I'm the director of 15 Twitchy Dolphin independent feature films, the writer of 15 features and a whole bunch of our shorts, directed a whole bunch of our shorts, and the president of the company, and for the most part, for 13 or so years, the kind of driving creative voice of Twitchy Dolphin Flix. The purpose of this documentary isn't to make the statement that Twitchy Dolphin or the people that worked on Twitchy Dolphin were this impact on Texas independent film like Richard Linklater or independent film at large like Kevin Smith. But really it's to serve three purposes. We're now over 2 years from my quote retirement and the kind of ceasing of operations of Twitchy Dolphin as a filmmaking community. We are still involved in web series, podcasting, and obviously the Austin Revolution Film Festival, which I think is our legacy. So I thought it was time to kind of reflect on what we did do. And in part, we're all kind of getting older. We're having kids. We are moving to parts unknown, those who worked on this very special experiment. We've got grandkids, Jessica and I, and they might want to know about what it was like when Pops made movies. And so it kind of started out as that. And then kind of almost like a last opportunity to do one of the things that we'd always wanted to do with this company, which was develop independent film in a slightly different strategy, and one that we think works best for people that were working on a sub micro budget. So that's really it. Hopefully teach them some lessons, share some stories, and creating a document for, at a minimum, those of us involved with the films, even through the people behind the camera, to the four of us that own the company, to the people that donated thousands of dollars over 10 to 12 films, to be able to look back and say, well, that was a thing we did, and it was a thing worth doing. When I think about Twitchy Dolphin and what that meant for me, the idea that we did something like 15 feature films in 13 years. And a good friend of our company, Adam Hampton, used to refer to me as the prolific Dick. And the thing is I'm not sure that people really understand the level of anxiety that drove my desire to produce so much. And so when I think about the beginning of this company, I think about a very unsettled period of my life, and that was coming out of the military. So, when you're in the military, one of the things that you learn, one of the things that I certainly learned and needed, was things like direction, things like purpose, things like living a life with some form of a meaning. And when I got out, I was a 28-year-old college freshman, and I kind of thought my opportunity to do something cool or different or special had passed. That I was at an age now, had a daughter, I was very happily married to Jessica, but I really felt like at that point, did I have any dream chasing left in me? I'd always been into movies. I famously tell the story, and sometimes Mom remembers it, sometimes she denies it, sometimes I'm not sure but she used to tell me, at least, that the first time that she felt me move was during a screening of Jaws. And I don't know if that's true. I don't know if it's legend. Jaws is my favorite movie, so to me it's gospel. But I remember always being captured, Spielberg stuff. I remember walking out of The Crow, of all movies, and if you've seen my stuff, you realize that that's a pretty big stretch. But that was really the first time that I thought about, I'm going to make a movie someday. And that movies are these things that work, and they're not just story, and they're not just visuals, but their music and their style. And that was a very impactful film for me. But one of my problems as a young man was often putting goal and result together. And sometimes they didn't always come together. I see this in young filmmakers to this day where, people say you get into a festival or you win a thing, that's well deserved. And deserving got nothing to do with it. It's earned. You work. And there was a period of my life where I didn't know about work. And that was what prompted an enlistment. But like I said, I came out thinking, I don't know if I have this anymore, if I have a chance to chase a dream. And I ended up at University of Texas at Austin, hook 'em. A good friend of ours, Lee Shipman, who I don't see much anymore, but will always be indebted to the fact that he was a big inspiration, had read a comic book script I was working on and said I should apply to the film department, and I did. I got in. And came out of that, went in wanting to be a screenwriter, came out thinking, after having Yaki Smith, among others, as my professor, that movies are powerful and movies can change things. And even though if you look at the majority of our films, I'm not trying to change the world. I think about my husband, Cedric Thomas Smith, who we'll hear from later in this series. I am more about providing a break from the world as opposed to trying to fix that world. Cedric wants to fix the world, and I think that's beautiful. So it is a thing where there's a lot of ways to skin a cat. But I remember coming out of that experience at UT, no longer wanting to be a writer, but also thinking, and I think correctly, that I was 31 when I graduated. I had two profound things happen to me. One, I did feel like 7 years in the military, 5 years as an NCO, I was not built to move to LA and be an intern. I wasn't built to move to LA and run coffee for somebody younger than me, way less experience, way less stake in the game of life, if you will. And so I'd also met Chris Koppel. And Chris and I ended up in a documentary class. And I took the documentary class to learn to edit, which I had no interest in making documentary. This marks the second documentary I've ever made, one about dogs, the next about myself. I'd never met a young person, military or not, that was as driven and focused and had as much direction and work ethic as someone as this 22, 23-year-old kid. And we did this dog documentary. He says that he picked it because it was the least pretentious title, pitch that was made. And Twitchy Dolphin was born from there.
When we talk about doing this documentary, I started thinking a lot about the history of Twitchy Dolphin, when things happened, the order in which they happened, why they happened in the way that they did. And a lot of that stuff is really important. But what I realized as I was thinking about all of this stuff was it doesn't matter nearly as much as the sort of human interaction and the human level sort of experience of Twitchy Dolphin. You know that there's a lot of work that goes into making movies, but to see it firsthand, it's a totally different experience. And then there's a lot of hurrying up and waiting. So you get to know all these people so well and become friends with them. And you end up with these great memories of things like filming a gun scene and one of the actors falling backwards and crashing through my wall and creating a giant hole in my wall, which stayed there for quite a while. Showing that fan film to friends, inviting them over to the backyard, stapling a sheet to the wall of the house and just projecting it. Watching one of the Punisher movies, we really kind of had something, and I could see it really developing, and I remember being very struck by that.
One of the big focuses when it came to what we wanted Twitchy Dolphin to be was almost an independent rock band approach. None of us had any real desire or motivation at that time to move to LA. That was the thing you did. You went to UT, maybe you did UT in LA, and then you moved out there, and then you figured out if you could do it or not. I was still a little naive. I really thought that we could be another Troublemaker Studios, and I really thought we could do the Richard Linklater thing or the Kevin Smith thing or the Ed Burns thing, not realizing that had already been done. And so it wasn't going to be that same road, but we really did, nose to the grindstone. And I'll be perfectly honest, my inability to always be the smartest guy in the room, I'm definitely gonna be the hardest working. And I think in some ways that worked to our benefit, probably in some ways it worked to our detriment, because we just produced. But we wanted to do a couple of things. We really wanted it to be where we shared knowledge, where we encouraged other directors, where it encouraged other people to come and be creative and to maybe have a stake in what we were working on. And some people bought into that big time. Some people didn't. Some people bought into it for a while and some people left. And it was still at the end of the day, I think a really noble experiment when it comes to independent film. A lot of very special people got together to make movies and to chase a dream. And I think that's a beautiful thing, no matter how you spell it out. And I'll forever be indebted to Nathan, and then Jessica, and then Chris, and then always like right there, ready to do whatever we needed, Shelley, and so many other people that just bought in. And I will always be thankful to all the people that were behind and in front of a Twitchy Dolphin camera for buying in, because that's really all you can ask of people.